Howdy, Beefalo Bart here, and welcome. Alright, as the title suggests on this one, this is going to just be a simple weapon switching mechanic. Very simple, very basic. The guns don't actually work. They look like, yeah, well, more like batons. This is just to make sure that everything works correctly. Let's do this in single player first, and then we'll show that it works in multiplayer. Alright, so we have our character, we have two weapons, the black one which is weapon 1, blue one which is weapon 2. So if I hit keys now, 1 and 2, nothing happens at all. So if I hit and pick up this one, it picks it up automatically, goes to my inventory, and disappears from the map. And I cannot pick up another one because I already have one. So let's equip it by hitting the number 1 key, and then we can hit the number 1 key again and put it away. If we hit the 1 key and the number 2 key, nothing happens because we don't have the other gun, so nothing happens. So we can hit 1, put that away. So let's pick up gun number 2, and we can equip number 2 by hitting number 2. We can put it away again by hitting number 2. If we have number 2 out, we want number 1. We hit number 1, it puts number 2 away, and then we hit number 1 again, and it'll put that one away. But if we have 1 out, and we bring 2 out, it puts 1 away. So lovely, works just fine. Does everything we need it to do. 2 players, new pie. Okay, so just a second here to resize the windows. And again, yes, I know that I can resize these windows and leave it a certain way, but I don't care because I am not normally doing this. I'm normally only doing one view because that's all I need. And you're an asshole. Don't hide my damn windows. Alright, so server picks up weapon 1, picks up weapon 2, and we'll stand right here. Client, and you see they disappeared for the server and for the client. They went away just fine. And pick up that one, pick up that one. So client now, we can see client has number 1, and we can see that it's equipped. Right? So server will pull out weapon number 1. We'll put it away. Let's go back over here. 1 out and away. Replicates just fine. Let's bring out weapon number 2. We can see that it's there. Let's go to the server. 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Everything's lovely. No problems. Everything perfectly working in replication. So for the weapon pickup itself, yeah, I did not make anything for the gun just yet, but for the first test gun, essentially when we walk over it, on component begin overlap. Well, let's look at what it is. What it is and what it be like is the weapon itself, a box collision, and a rotating movement. You don't have to have the rotating movement. I just think it looks nice. The box collision, all you have to do, right click on it and add event on component begin overlap. Cast your player character from here. If you drag out from here and type in your player character, it'll auto link the executable. Then we're going to check to see if we have that gun already with a variable on the player character. If we do not, then we set that we have it now to set this variable to true, and we destroy actor. Now if you wanted the gun to respawn, up to you. Instead of destroy actor, you can set it to where it will respawn, and a simple respawn system would then instead be to set visibility of the test gun and to disable collision for the box collision. So what happens is at that point you put a delay in, and then you re-enable the collision, and you re-enable the or turn invisibility back on. So if you guys are interested in the respawn of it, I'll show that really quickly. So essentially you just want to grab a reference to your test gun, set visibility, and then from there get a reference to the box collision, and set collision enabled to no collision. Delay, and if you want to get fancy, this is a float. Okay, so you just add another variable in here, respawn, make that a float, compile, save, and set that as a default of 5 seconds, we'll say, and we're going to set that here, and then we're going to click on this to make that visible. So at that point we'll come back in here and actually, let's just do it manually. We again take our test gun, set our visibility to check mark so it becomes visible, and then our box collision, we want to set collision enabled to collision enabled at that point, so it resets. So that's what you would have to add into it to create that. I'm going to leave it to where it just destroys the actor, but I'll show you in the pickup itself. Whenever you have the pickup on the ground, you now have respawn, which will show up right here. You can change the respawn rate just by clicking on it and saying okay. There we go. That comes in handy if you want to set a heal amount for a first aid kit, but yeah, we're just going to go ahead and move on from here. But that's how you set up your pickup item. Same thing for weapon 2. It's the same one. The only difference is going to be these two variables is test gun 2 and test gun 2 here. So we get it and set it for whether or not we have it. Inside of our player character. Okay, put it in nice big red. Now for replication to work also, I need to mention that in your pickup, make sure your class defaults, you set that it replicates right there. That way whenever you pick it up off the ground, it'll disappear. So destroy actor will work correctly. You may actually have to, one thing, your test gun, okay, I didn't do it in there, and it works just fine. Okay, so on here we need to set up 4 variables. The first one is has test gun, you know, or gun number 1, or whatever you want for your first gun to be, and by default it's false, and it is replicated. We want the variable that says has test gun 2 also replicated. Whether it needs to be replicated or not, I haven't seen a difference. I just did it by, you know, off the hip. But we have gun 1 out and gun 2 out. Okay, and then what we want to do is, you can see on our player character, we're going to go ahead and select our mesh, and if you have not done so already, you need to go to your skeletal mesh, select your hand R, and right click on it and add a socket. And then I call my socket that I created main hand, because I'm equipping something to my main hand or my right hand. And then I add a preview asset and I kind of resize it and everything to make it look about right here. I don't have any animations associated with this. This was just a quick thrown together project. But to get it in about the right location, you can always use a specific animation and choose an animation to run, and then pause the animation so you can set it up just right. Make sure you hit the save button when you're done. Okay, so then from your mesh, you add a component of a skeletal mesh, or in my case it was a static mesh, and then by adding it to the mesh, you then come over here to the parent socket. You can hit the magnifying glass, select which socket you want it to go to, which for me is main hand, and bam, there you go. Now the reason why mine is not showing up is because you also want to set visibility, uncheck that, so it's not visible at any time. So you do the same thing for all your other weapons, and you can put them in right here. This is the rough way to do it. Another way to do it is actually to have a base skeletal mesh or static mesh here called primary weapon or weapon in hand or whatever, and then you're going to change that variable later. That's a bit more complex. We'll get into that in another video, but this is the simplest form of doing it. Is just you're adding all of your guns to the mesh this way. In my case, I've only got 2, so it won't matter. But if you've got 10, 15, 20 weapons, then you're going to have to do it a little bit different way, and I can show that in another video. Alrighty, let's get into the meat and taters here. You want to create a custom event, and I called mine Client Show Gun 1, and in that, it's set to be multicast. Doesn't have to be reliable, but just multicast. Okay, then I'm going to run a branch node, and then I'm going to ask, do I has test gun 1? And if I do have test gun 1, I added a sequence node in, and this is great for 1 or 2, maybe 3 guns without getting too carried away. But from that branch, from true, we go into a sequence node, and then we ask a branch on both conditions here. And off of the top one, I ran is gun 1 out. Okay, and true or false. Is it out? Yes. Is it out? No. And then the second branch is gun 2 out. If gun 2 is out, it doesn't matter whether we have it or not. It's just asking, is it out? Because if we don't have it, it's just not going to do anything at all. So if gun 2 is out, we want to set visibility of gun 2 to unchecked for not visible. And we want to set our variable here to gun 2 out, unchecked, and is false. Then we're going to go right into setting the visibility of gun 1 to true, which, we have a variable here, which all I did was I grabbed it from here and drug it in. So at that point, we're setting it to true, and we're setting the variable gun 1 out to true. Whereas here, when we asked, is gun 1 out? If it is, then we want to put it away. So we just set visibility to false and uncheck the variable here for set gun 1 out. But if gun 1 is not out, then we connect this down to here for turning visibility on for the weapon and setting it is out. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Then I ran a second custom event, which is server show gun 1, and that is run on server. Switch as authority, and then we ran client show gun 1, which is this. So when we activate this event right here from pressing the number 1 key, it's saying execute this sequence, which is this. So this then says, okay, the switch has authority as for client to show gun 1, and then this is this sequence here. Alright, going to pause for just a second and let this sit in the screen. So if you want to screenshot this portion, and then I'll slide to the right, and if you want to screenshot. For those who actually have my Simple Multiplayer Steam template, let me know and I'll just send you the whole damn project if you're having too much trouble with it. Okay, so I'm going to scroll over and you can see the other part here, and you can go ahead and screenshot that. Well, that's all we needed for gun 1, and pretty much it is identical for showing the second gun. We make a new custom event called client show gun 2, and then we ask, do we has test gun 2? I guess it could have changed has to have, but whatever. And it's the same process all the way across. I mean, literally, you could just about copy and paste and just switch out these two You know, on the top one, 1 is on top, 2 is on bottom. Where here, 2 is on top, 1 is on bottom. So the only thing that I really changed between the ones up there is the name of the custom event here, the name of the custom event there, and these 3 variables, this variable here, and these 2 variables are just changed. Where on gun 1, this will be gun 1, gun 2, it's gun 2. I wouldn't want to use this method for a dozen weapons, but if you've only got 2 weapons, then okay. Or if you want your character to only have I just finally took the time to have a moment of clarity to fix this part. This part right here, I never could sit down and take the time to do this, and it was not really difficult. And like I said, this works for 2 guns. If you guys want, I'll do a video on a more complex system, but this system works perfectly the way it is for 2 weapons. And what I would suggest is, if you're going to do this be like primary weapon, secondary weapon. You can use that same technique here, but the actual weapon itself, whenever you're doing the pickup, instead of it only being 2, if you have 2 different weapon ones or 2 different primary weapons, let's say you wanted test gun and test gun 2, you want test gun to be primary weapon and 2 for your pistol, okay? And you have 3 different pistols on the ground you can choose from. But this system right here works perfect. But talking about upgrading it for having the option of multiple pistols here is, if you want multiples, you're going to have to go about it a different way. So if this is, like say this way right here, if you're using a different animation blueprint for when you have the weapon out, which is another thing that I like to do. And then from when you set the visibility to false, like here, when you're saying to put your weapon away, then at this point I would actually run a second custom event here that changes the actual skeletal, not skeletal mesh, the what's that thing called? Animation blueprint to unarmed. And at this point, you want to do the same thing, but tell it to use the armed one. If you want me to elaborate on that. I don't have, so this is just proof of concept here, showing you again that this does work. And I can always add in the animation starter pack. So server can walk over here, pick up gun 1, it disappears. And then you can pick up gun 2, see it disappears, but I can't take the other ones because I've already got them. And let's grab the client, pick up the weapon, everything disappears just fine. Client equips weapon number 1 and puts it away. See, 2. This is the client right here. So that works. Client has weapon number 2 out. Server, this is server. He equips 1. Let's change view. 2. Wakes perfectly. So if you've got and you want animations to change, I am going to go here, add a project, the animation starter pack. add a project. So there we go. We now have another animation. If you add a third weapon, it would be the same process. If you want, say, like a primary weapon, a secondary weapon, and a melee weapon, I would then take where I've put these right here. Test gun 1, this would be, you could rename this to primary weapon, and it'll automatically change it where it needs to be. And you could change gun 2 would be secondary weapon, and you could add a third one in, which would be, say, a melee weapon. And then you could do the same thing here. You would just make another copy of this down here, and it would be gun 1, gun 2, gun 3. Instead, you could change this to be primary weapon, and this could be secondary weapon, and then essentially reproduce this entire system for a third weapon. So let's actually go ahead and add in, we've got the animation starter pack. Let's go to characters. I'm not even using a flip-flop. Instead of using a flip-flop, it kind of confuses things a little bit too much. So that's why I broke it down here into a sequence node, and I ran it this way as a branch node to ask true or false. So if gun 1 is out, because if you run a flip-flop here, then what will happen is you press the number 1 key to equip your primary, press the number 2 key, no problem, it'll change. But when you hit the number 1 key again, nothing will happen. You'll have to hit it again. So by doing it this way, it told me to just set the visibility of this. And what you would do is, now if you have 2 different primary weapons, let's say a rifle and a shotgun, that you want to pick up, and you can only carry 1, we'll say. It'll ask if you already have a primary weapon, or where this one has test gun. I could change this variable to has primary weapon. So we'll just type in have primary weapon, and it changes automatically where it needs to, even in the other blueprints. So do I have a primary weapon? If the answer is yes, then if I need to, I can change the skeletal mesh or the static mesh of my primary weapon and worry about doing a drop system later on, where you can only have 1 at a time. So this is just naming convention right there on that. You would then get a reference to this, your primary weapon or your secondary weapon, and set the skeletal mesh. You can do it the same way if you've got multiple primary weapons. Then you could set up a second system to actually toggle between the different ones. But again, I told you this is going to be simple. You're trying to complicate shit. Don't come in here starting trash. Goddamn potato farmer. So I'm going to go to my character folder. I'm going to make a new folder called animations. And I'm going to go to my animation starter pack. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to click on that twice so I can copy the name of it. And then I am going to right click on it. Retarget, duplicate, blah, 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 blah. Oh no, it won't work because it's stupid. Coming here starting trouble, I tell you. The nerve of some folks. Go to my mesh, retarget manager, humanoid, and save. And same thing here. Mesh, humanoid, save, go away, thank you. Now you can come in here to the root folder and retarget, replace, Control V, and I want this to be armed underscore ABP, and I'm going to change the location it goes to characters, emanations, okay, and retarget. Now we have that second one. Here's the problem we're going to run into is when we bring in this other animation blueprint, it is trying to do that. And it's referring to all this crap for jump. It's a whole different jump system. So we're going to end up having to modify our player character and all that crap because we need this to change from cast to UE4 ASP. We need this to cast to our player underscore base or whatever our character actually is. We're going to need to create jump button down and crouch button down variables. Before we can actually get this to work correctly. But we're going to leave it at that for right now. But essentially, like I said, at this point, whenever you change to your primary weapon and you set that your weapon is out, you would then get a reference to your mesh and let's see. Set anim instance class to our armed animation blueprint. No, we want to set it. We're going to set this. So you could actually take and put your mesh reference there, and I would connect this to here, and then from here I would do set anim instance class, and this one I would set it to our normal third person animation blueprint. So by doing that, we're changing our animations. Now I'm going to connect them, and it's probably going to break things because the animation blueprint's not going to have the variables and crap right. So Control C and Control V. I'm going to just connect that in here. Like I said, it's probably going to be an error because the fact that I don't have crouch button down and jump button down. I'm going to change back to single player because no point in having both windows up. So we've picked up our weapons, nothing's going to happen, and nothing's going to happen here because we have an error. Yep, I was going to tell you, we don't have the jump buttons and all that stuff. And I think also, I think for right now I'm just going to break those lines because I will come back at some point and fix that. Not for a quick vid. Alright, so have primary, change those variables. Okay, guess I could read what it actually says here. No, it's because I broke the alright, man, have a good one. See, I changed all this crap up for you, and then you're gonna all ask. Well, don't need all that stuff in here. Let's see. Why did I break the other one now? It's because I changed the variables. And I don't know why, but whenever I change variables, it works. But because I didn't go back in there and manually save it, it looks like that's what the problem is. See, everything's working just fine now. All I had to do was go back into it and save it again. So yeah, that's UE4 being screwy. But yeah, the animation thing. You know, I could speed things up just a hair. Coming here to the original one. This one's going to get broken because it doesn't have that input action crouch. So what I'll do here is I'll actually delete that. And I will to keyboard C, pressed, released. I don't like press and release. I like to toggle. So let's break that shit. Break that shit. Flip, flop. So this will work for going between armed and unarmed animation blueprints. So if I take this and Control C and come in here and Control V, and when I hit compile and save, it's going to have errors because I don't have that variable. So all I have to do is create variable and then compile and save. It's going to be the same thing for jump because they're using a slightly different system. So I'm just going to grab that. And again, I'm going to come in here and paste. And when I hit compile, it's going to give me an error because I don't have jump button down. So just right click on it and create. And that's fine. I'm not going to remove my other jump because I already have one. So this works just fine. So now I can close this and go back into my animation blueprint. And I know that these two variables here, I just need to recreate this coming from here, which is get jump button down. And I need to get crouch button down. Crouching is already there, so I just need to connect this to here and this to here, and I can delete that, connect try get pawn owner to here, and that to here. This is very disorganized. I really dislike this. This to here. And then for the jump portion, same basic thing here. I need to cast to my character, connect that to there, and I need to set jump button down, connect that in, and I just need to grab those two and delete. And I either broke it all to hell and back or it's going to work. I'm just going to reconnect these guys again. And again, I've either broken things horribly wrong or it'll work. So I got my weapons 1 and 2. There we go. There's weapon 1. I'm in my new animation blueprint. When I hit 1 to put my weapon away, it goes back to my regular unarmed animation blueprint. Hit number 2. Damn, almost looks like I tried it that way. But if I hit number 1, it just changes the weapon, not the animation blueprint. I hit number 1 again, I go back to unarmed animation blueprint. Oh my god, it worked. How about that? So let's try it in multiplier. 2 pliers and scale U. And I don't care, just get over here. Alright, client runs over, grabs a weapon, and there we go. We can see he is in that animation blueprint. God, I hate the jump in that animation starter pack. That looks like crap. Look, I'm running in the air. Stupid ass thing. Alright, so server runs over, grabs weapon, deploys weapon, goes to weapon 2, puts weapon away. Yay, and there was much rejoicing. It all works. Alright, so again, that's all I did in here was I changed that. I added that in and took out the other one. And same thing. Took out the other one and put in mine. I added these 2 variables to my player character, and that was it. And I just that quickly set up with replication, adding weapons, switching between them, added a second animation blueprint system, switching between the animation blueprints. Yeah, and that's it. Any questiones on that? Save and close. Yes, my weapons were horrible. They took all of 30 seconds to create. Just 2 frickin' cylinders and converted them to a static mesh. It'd be the same thing if it was going to be a skeletal mesh. So let's go back to 1 player. Again, if we don't have weapon 1, we can't deploy the weapon. And we can't take weapons that we don't have. And yes, I did not make them functional weapons. They don't fire, they don't do anything. I just wanted to do weapon switching. That's what I was asked for. So that's what I did. With animation switching, replication, it all works, and there's much rejoicing. See, you can actually crouch while you're armed, but if you put your weapon away, you don't have a no crouch, because you can't crouch in the third-person animation blueprint. There is no unarmed crouching. See, that's a problem. Is I go to my weapon and he automatically starts crouching again. So what I would say to fix that is crouch button down unchecked. So when we set this for weapon out no, we would set crouch button down to false. And that will be that. Or it should be, at least. Let's go over here, grab some weapons. We have a weapon, we're going to crouch. Let's put our weapon away, bring it back out again. And we are not crouching, but we have to hit the button twice. Yeah, that didn't fix it. Yeah, I'm not going to complicate things. I'll come back to this and make that a thing later on. No, you asshole. I want you and you to go away. But yeah, that's minor consequence. It would be the same basic thing right now where we need to find out, are we crouching? So instead of just jump button down and or crouch button down, I would add in another variable saying is crouching. And from here, when I press C to crouch, I would then add that variable in, is crouching true, is crouching false. And then I would add a branch node between here and here asking, are we crouching? And probably then I would take the flip-flop out and say, if we are crouching, then stop crouching. If we're not crouching, then crouch, you know. Just take out this, replace it with a branch node, and ask, are we crouching? So, add a variable, crouching. Scroll this out, move this out, get rid of that, a branch, ask, are we crouching? We press it. If we are crouching, then stop crouching. If we are not crouching, start crouching. And then we want to set crouching to true or false. Crouching, set crouch button down, yes. Like so. So now, I know that it looks really redundant. Welcome to Unreal Engine 4. So we need to ask, are we crouching? If the answer is true, then stop crouching. And then here, go back to our setup right here. If gun is out is false, then we need to set crouching to unchecked. We need to make sure that it's no longer crouching, whether it is or not. Because, yeah, if we are not crouching, then that variable is already set to false. Right? By default, it's false. So if we are crouching whenever we put our weapon away, then we need to make sure we are not crouching. So have weapon, have weapon. Now we can crouch, do this. Whenever I put the weapon away, it comes out of crouching. If I bring my weapon back out, why are you crouching, you fucking ignorant bastard? Okay, fine. We will set that. Then it kind of makes this variable redundant at that point. So all I did was I grabbed in, crouch button down, set, connected that. Now are you going to be happy? We have a weapon, we're crouching, everything is lovely, we put our weapon away, bring our weapon back out again, we're no longer crouching. Try it with number 2, we crouch, put our weapon away, we're not crouching, we bring it back out again, and there was much rejoicing. Okay. That or that. Everything works. Alright, last call for alcohol. Any other comments, questions? Weapon systems are in red. So I wanted them off to the side and separate. Again, anything with key bindings, I would probably say stick together. Give them their own colors. Try to get organized, stay organized, be awesome. Movement, VR, whatever. I'm just neatening up things here. Alright, no other questions, and that's it for me. Escape menu. That is a key binding. Startup, movement. Oh, that's movement stuff, so throw your ass over there. Those are key binding related. And put your ass over there. Oh, touch input. I don't even need your ass, but still. Inputs and touching thingies. This is my startup section, so I'll just throw all this in here. So my event begin play and my, hopefully I don't have any, but event ticks or anything else would go over here. Set up our whole section right here just for that. If you want to, you could comment a commented section, so you know that that's for whatevers and this is for whatevers. Get organized, stay organized, be happy. Alright, we're going to go ahead and just quickly look at this one more time in multiplayer. Show that it does work. And if there's no other questions, I'm going to call it quits for this video. So these were this has been requested for me to do for quite some time. And then other people kept requesting it, and the dude in purple kept requesting it, and everybody else. So, you know what? I done it. A more complex version is probably necessary to do, but for a simple system where you've only got 1, 2, maybe 3 weapons, you know, like a primary, a secondary, go over here on the server, grab that, bring a weapon out, and crouch. And, oh no! What do we see here? Crouching is not replicated. Oh no, that's terrible. Alright, well, that wasn't my fault. That was to do with... where's my crouching? To replicate crouching, first off, crouching needs to be replicated. Jump button down, don't really think it does. It does not. That should not. Alright, so we see that it's not working. So, easy enough. Custom event, client, crouch, multicast. then we're going to have to make this really huge. Custom server crouch. I can't spell. Run on the server. Client crouch. All right. Client is crouching. Oh shit. Oh, that's lovely. Leave it to me to be in a hurry and fuck shit up like that. Client's crouching. No, he's standing up. Is that up? No. No. What? Okay. Alright, that's just fucking amusing as hell. Oh, I found that funny. It's run on server, it's multicast. Beautiful. Yeah, this wasn't meant to be a multiplayer replication video, so. Oh, that's hilarious. Let me just go back to the animation blueprint. Let's see. It's replicated. And don't need it for there. Oh. You just gotta laugh sometimes, you know? Yeah, it needed to be reliable. Alright. Everybody's happy. That's all I did, was I had to change it to reliable there. And I'm about to redo it anyway, because it is not talking to each other very well. Nope, didn't like that. Yeah, I'll come back and fix that later. Because I'm trying to hurry, because I got other things that I want to get into. Oh boy. Crouching is replicated. The problem now is, all right, client comes over here, is armed, we see it armed, crouches, we see it just fine. Alright, so now we're on the server. Server's going to come over here and get it. Break out a weapon and crouch. There we go. Alright, we're good. Yeah, that's all I did was make sure that my variables were replicated that needed to be replicated. And that was it. Alright, no other questions. Y'all have been too quiet. Had a couple questions. I think I covered those pretty well. For a more complicated system, I think maybe for the next video that I'll do on this, we'll actually do a more complicated system to where you can either have two primary weapons, one on your back, one in your hand. And essentially at that point, there's going to be a lot of variables, a lot of switching, that kind of stuff. Whereas like the primary weapon, secondary weapon, the way we're doing it now, same basic system is, we'll take this and we'll change the visibility not just on the hands, but whenever the player actually has... let's do one and select a viewport. So we're going to say that both of these are single weapons. Whenever I press 1, it deploys it to my hand. Press 2, it would deploy it. It would take it out of my hands and put it on my back. And essentially, you're going to end up having to set visibility on and off of different things. You could always set up a different sockets for them to go to, but yeah, I'll work on a more complicated system later on. This was meant to just be a simple pickup system for switching between by setting the visibility on and off. This was by request, so, and it works. It replicates. It does everything it needs to do. Let's see here. Get socket location, transform. I mean, you could always, you know, yeah, not even going to worry about that. Everything works the way it's supposed to based off of the request for what I had. So I'm happy. Y'all are happy. Everybody's happy. Well, thank everybody for watching, and we will see you guys later.